Now I'm looking at a mostly blank server, and we're looking at the dashboard, which is blank. But what you can see is in the middle of the screen, we have our very friendly onboarding guide. So it's going to guide us through the entire demo. It's going to take us from setting everything up to deploying our release. So let's start with step number 1 and tell Octopus about our infrastructure. So we're going to create our first environment. And in Octopus, what an environment is a grouping, it's a named group of what you're deploying to, your physical or virtual machines, your cloud resources, your Kubernetes clusters, whatever that infrastructure is, the environment groups that together. So I can think back to one of my previous jobs where we had all kinds of environments. We had development environments, QA, UAT, production, disaster recovery, and Octopus is really configurable in this way. You can add as few environments or as many as you need. You could have one if we're going to deploy directly to production. You can have 5 where you're going from like dev to test to pre-prod to disaster recovery. So it's very configurable. You can make it match your process. And for today, I'm going to use my favorite 3 environments, which is development, test, and production. And if that's what you're using, we have these nice links here. You can click on development, it populates it for you, save me some typing. I don't have to mistype during my demo too much. And I saved it. And you can see we have an environment now. It's named development. There's some other settings we can set, but the defaults are perfectly fine for this demo. So let's go back to environments. And before we add any of our infrastructure, let's just go ahead and add those other 2 environments. So we save that one, and let's go back, and we will add our 3rd and final environment, which is production. We've got our 3 environments. They're currently empty. You can see 0 targets in each of them. And the onboarding guide is going to guide us to create our first deployment target. And I've kind of mentioned this already, but that's what your deployment targets are: your servers, your physical virtual machines, cloud services, et cetera, Azure web apps or Lambda functions, all of that. That's what you're deploying to. So we're going to go in and add our first deployment target. And when you're adding your first deployment target, you get this category list of where are you deploying to? Are you deploying to Windows, which we are, so we will choose that. But if you're deploying to Azure or Kubernetes, you can also choose those. But for today, we'll choose Windows. And you see it gives you, okay, well, how are you deploying to Windows? And there's a few options for Windows. Azure, there's a VM extension for Azure that you can use, but we're not quite using that today. We're just going to stick with the Tentacle option. So in Octopus, the Tentacle is a Windows service that runs on your target machine that communicates with the server. It accepts work from the server to do your deployments, variety of tasks, health checks, etc. So we have 2 types of tentacles. There's a listening tentacle and a polling tentacle, and really the difference between those is the communication path. A listening tentacle sits passively and waits for the Octopus server to contact it with work to do. Whereas the polling tentacle will actively poll the Octopus server and ask, like, hey, do you have a job for me to do yet? Do you have a job for me to do yet? And continues to ask until there is work to do, in which case it goes and does that work and then continues the polling. So we're going to set up, now you would choose one of those based on your network configuration and how your firewall is set up and what you're allowed, like which direction you're allowed to push that information. And we have this nice link built into the page that can take you to the communication modes, and it goes over all those caveats with you and gives you a lot of good information for choosing which one you need. If you still have questions on whether you need a listening tentacle or a polling tentacle, feel free to reach out to support@octopus.com and we can talk with you and help you make the right decision. But for today, we're doing a listening tentacle. So when we go to add that listening tentacle, it's going to give us some installation instructions because we do have to install this on a server. It's going to give us a nice button to download the tentacle. And then the next option is, or the next piece of information is a thumbprint with some characters and a handy copy to clipboard button. This is the thumbprint of the server certificate. So the communication between the Octopus server and the Octopus tentacles is encrypted using the certificates. The Octopus server has a certificate and the tentacle has a certificate, and they use that to encrypt their communication. The other thing the thumbprint is used for is the Tentacle and the server will actually only accept request if it has a thumbprint that it recognizes. So if some random request comes into your Tentacle and it doesn't have a valid certificate thumbprint that it trusts, it will just ignore that. It'll actually log it somewhere saying, hey, somebody sent a request with this thumbprint that I don't recognize. I'm not going to act on it. So we've copied that. And before I can go in and add this Tentacle, I actually need to install it. So I have my dev server running. I've already installed I run the installer. So we just need to configure the Tentacle. So we're going to go in, we choose the communication style, listening is what we're going to use. The storage settings, the defaults are fine. You can change where it stores the logs and the configuration, but for me, the default is usually good. You can change the default port, but by default, Octopus will use 10933 for listening Tentacles. Automatically add us a firewall exception. That's handy for me. And then I add that Octopus thumbprint. So I'm telling this Tentacle, this is the server you trust. And that's it. I click install. It's going to run an install script. It shouldn't take too long to run, but when it's done, I'll have a Tentacle that has been installed and configured and is ready to accept request from my server. So you see it's running, we get some information about it, and we also get the thumbprint of the Tentacle. So this is the Tentacle certificate thumbprint. I can copy that and take it back to the server if I needed to, and it's handy to get it just in case you're not able to use the automatic discovery, which I will show here. Normally, you have the option to enter all the details, including that thumbprint manually, but because it trusts our server, the Octopus server can actually reach out and ask for those details. So it's going to reach out with that thumbprint that the Tentacle trusts. And if we scroll down to this next page, you see it's filled in that thumbprint and other information automatically. So I didn't have to copy and paste it in. But if for some reason you've got some network access issues or you're not able to connect at the time, you can just copy that thumbprint from the Tentacle and enter it manually. All right, let's finish setting up this target. We're going to give it a name. So this is going to be my OctoFX dev. It's going to be my web and app server. And really the name is what's going to be the most useful to you, the easiest way to identify it. A lot of people use, for the display name, they still use the machine name because that's an easy way to identify it. You can use whatever works for you, whether it's a descriptive sentence like this is my web and app server, or this is just machine 001. Whatever makes the most sense for your team. At the next point, I'm going to tell Octopus which environment does this machine belong to, and it's going to populate with the ones we've created. This is my dev server, so it's going into the development environment. And the next piece of information we need to give it to kind of give Octopus more information about how to treat this target, but also give us more visual information on what this is when we're looking at it through the UI is target roles. And these are kind of tags that you can apply information to your deployment target. And not only tells Octopus, like I want to deploy, how to deploy or what to deploy to this target, but it gives you some information. So you could say, this is a web server, and this is not a database server, I'm getting ahead of myself, it's an app server. You can be this generic, and if you're on a small team, you only have one project, it's probably not a bad approach. But as you grow, as you add more projects in, I find that these generic names tend to lead to some growing pains. So even when I'm starting out, I like to be very specific with my target roles. So I usually put the product name in, OctoFX dash. And at this point, I could say web because it's my OctoFX web server, but I even like to be more specific than that. I like to name the website in case in the future I have multiple websites. So this is going to be my trading site. Similarly, it's an app server, and I don't want to use my web tag for deploying my app server. So I want to use OctoFX it's the exchange rate service. So I'll call that the rate service. Now I could just call that service, but if I ever have multiple services, I don't necessarily know which one's running on there. It could be all of them, but there could come the time where I want to split those out across different machines. So I like to be very, very specific with these tags as early as possible. And that's pretty much it for the target. Like I said, we pulled all the other information in automatically through the discovery. I set the environment, I set the target roles. Let's save this. And now that we've saved it, we can go back to our deployment targets, see that it's listed in this grid by name. its URL and port number, but I can also easily see what environment it's in and what have I tagged it with. So I can easily see this and say, oh, that machine is running my trading site and it's running my rate service. I want to add one more target manually. Now it's already installed, so we don't have to watch the installer run again, but this is going to be a database machine. It's actually not running a database, but it's going to be what we call a jump box. I'm sure several people call it a jump box, but that's the pattern. That's the name for the pattern we've decided to use. So this is going to be my OctoFX database jump box. And what this is, it's not actually running on the database server itself. It's a machine that has network connectivity to my database that has permission to run the database scripts. So I'm not running scripts directly on my database server. I'm not running them from my web server, which could lead to potential issues, especially if you have multiple web servers in an environment. How do you know which one to run on? So a jump box is a good pattern for that. So you have one machine responsible for database scripts. Now there's other patterns to doing that. This is just one, but this is the one we're using for the demo today. And I want to add this manually because I wanted to illustrate that you can add a target to multiple environments. So this one machine, this one target is going to do the database deployments for all three of our environments. Now, in a real scenario, you may have network segmentation between dev and test and production. Those could be on separate networks. So you may end up with one database machine that deploys the dev and test, and it's another one that deploys to production. No problem. You would just have two jump boxes, one that's in two environments, one that's in a single environment. But today we get to use one for all three. So good bonus there. And we're going to get a role. And you see the ones that I've previously added come in, but I'm adding a new one. I just want this to be my database server. So database role. So kind of more generic one, but I don't have multiple databases. OctoFX database seems to map pretty nice. So I'm going to use that. And I'm going to save. We can go back to the deployment targets and see that. So we see that it's been added. It's marked healthy because it's already been installed and had everything updated. And if we go to the infrastructure overview, we get a nice overview of all of our infrastructure. So we can see each environment, how many targets it has, and also how many total targets we have by type. We have two listening tentacles, also by status.